What is up, everybody? Let's talk about the episode that I think is the worst in Game of Thrones history. That episode is titled Beyond the Wall. The episode's plot is basically Jon and friends are going across the wall to try and bring a White Walker back to prove to all the lords of Westeros that the army of the dead is a real threat. Not only is this an incredibly stupid idea, on top of that, everything that happens during this mission is pretty nonsensical and has no logical merit involved. I'm going to only be talking about the plot Beyond the Wall because as awful as the Sansa and Arya plot is, I'm pretty positive that most people already realize that it's awful, and me going in depth about it is pretty pointless. As for the rest of the episode, there are parts that a lot of people didn't like obviously, but a lot of the stuff I noticed didn't seem to be brought up in any other video that I have watched. With that being said, let's get right into it. So they decide to go north of the wall, and only Jorah thought it would be a good idea to bring Dragonglass. Jon has been dealing with these White Walkers for 7 seasons, but he didn't think maybe it would be a good idea to arm his men with some useful items before embarking on this mission. Everyone should have Dragonglass weapons and bows with Dragonglass arrowheads. The only reason they don't have these things is because it would get in the way of the plot. The writing in this episode is so incredibly dumb it hurts my head. The discussions that the characters have on their way to catch the White is probably the most entertaining part of the whole entire episode.
How many of his people died for his pride?
Sure, nothing that they are talking about fucking matters in the slightest, but at least we get to see some of these characters interact that have not interacted at all until this point. I've noticed people have problems with this episode because the ravens and dragons have super speed and can fly around the world in 5 minutes. This doesn't bother me too much. You can assume that large portions of time is passing between shots. We don't need a clock showing the exact time of when each scene is happening, so fuck it. I also find it funny because I like to believe that the mountain with the arrowhead is actually 10 minutes away from the wall, but everybody keeps stopping to talk and it ends up taking them a whole day to get there. That's why Gendry could run back so fast, because it's about a 10-minute walk and about a 5-minute run. Okay, let's get to Thoros of Myr. Let's just say they did my man Thoros really bad. Dan and Dave, they whipped out their dicks and they pissed all over Thoros. Not only did it make more sense to kill off Beric in this episode, but the way they killed Thoros was completely horrendous. It was really bad, but Benjen's death was probably the most retarded thing I have seen in my whole entire life, but we will get to that later. So the group eventually gets caught in a bad snowstorm. One of the wildlings notices something in the distance. So instead of staying with the group, he decides it would be a great idea to walk as close to it as possible before he decides to try and run away from it. Also, the bear is clearly facing in front of him, but when he is running back, somehow it appears to the side of him in about 10 seconds. Not only does that make no sense, but you know what? Okay, you know what? Fuck it. It's just stupid. After the wildling gets picked off, they all decide to stand in a circle because it would look good for a spinning shot and it will be really cool and stuff. Beric and Thoros go in with their flaming swords. Beric sets it on fire and then Thoros is knocked down to the ground. Thoros of Myr is getting devastated by the bear for a whole fucking 30 seconds while it focuses on the Hound, who does nothing because there is fire. Okay, hold on one second. Where is everybody else? Why is Tormund the only one who tries to do anything? Why is it focusing on the Hound? Why didn't Jorah stab it with the Dragonglass dagger to begin with? Why did they all just stand there while Thoros got ripped apart and put so much emphasis on the fucking Hound doing nothing? It's because they're scared of fire. Wait a minute. So he's so damn scared of fire to the point where he can't help fight off a bear? But he's fine enough with fire to the point where he can flawlessly fight Beric with a flaming sword and come out victorious? Even though that scene was 4 seasons ago and it made a little bit more sense for him to be dealing with his problems with fire? It was only wrote in the episode for a reason to kill Thoros, and because the writers have no idea what to write about when George doesn't hand them a completed book that they can use to help them along the way. I guess everybody else was afraid of the fire too, not only the Hound. That's why they decided to let Thoros get his shit ripped up for a total of 30 fucking seconds.
Bare necessities, the simple bare necessities. Forget about your worries and your strife. I mean the bare necessities are Mother Nature's recipes that bring the bare necessities of life. Wherever I wander, wherever I roam, I couldn't be found off my big home. The bees are buzzing in the tree.
Also, why was this one polar bear just conveniently like chilling out in the middle of nowhere by itself? Shouldn't it be like with the army? Isn't it a little useless just wandering north of the wall by itself? I guess apparently not. It took out a couple wildlings and ripped Thoros a new asshole, so apparently it was doing something right. Speaking of Thoros, he had the right idea during this episode. Getting completely fucking wasted. It's the only way to make this shit bearable. Thoros wasn't very bearable. Get it? Cause he got killed by a bear. Also, I bet Dan and Dave were fucking wasted when they wrote this episode. Anyways, let's get on with this. So they end up running into a small group of whites with a white walker. Once again, it's incredibly convenient that these guys aren't with the rest of the army. It's also incredibly convenient that when a white walker dies, all whites die, except one single one. What are the chances that just one would stay alive? I guess we can argue that a different White Walker raised this white, but if that's the case, why is it with this group of whites and White Walkers? Oh, that's right, so that the plot can continue. It doesn't need to make sense, I guess. So they hear a bunch of whites and White Walkers that are coming, they send Gendry back to Eastwatch. Oh, hold on a second, why don't they just go back to Eastwatch? They have the white with them, why do they run the opposite way of Gendry? They had just as much time to run back to the wall with Gendry. What the fuck were they thinking? Well, they conveniently find an island that they can chill on while the ice around them breaks and all the whites fall into the water. And the White Walkers kind of just like chill and let them chill on the island, and the White Walkers are kind of just like, yeah, let's keep Jon Snow alive. The guy who's been like trying to kill us and protect Westeros for like 7 seasons. Like, that's a really good plan. Like, this can't backfire in any way. Let's like not throw spears at them and kill them while they're sitting on an island like ducks. Let's just sit here with our thumbs in our ass and we'll watch them with their thumbs in their ass. Anyways, Thoros ends up freezing on the island and dying. They just did Thoros so damn fucking dirty. There are so many great ways you could have killed him off. Here's a relatively funny one. He could end up dropping his alcohol in the water while running from the zombies or something and end up trying to go and get it back. It would lead to his demise. At least that would be really funny and make sense because the whole show he's been getting drunk. Kinda like me. Or even if the polar bear dragged him 50 feet away from the group and he ends up sacrificing himself to get it killed. At least then he would go out with a bang and it wouldn't be so stupid considering everyone was standing around him when he actually got shred up by a fucking bear. I don't understand how it can be so fucking hard to write this shit. Like, anybody could do better than this. Like, how do these people get these fucking jobs? Anyways, that ties back into what I was saying earlier. If they would have just came a little more prepared and brought dragon class arrows, then they could have shot all the White Walkers right then and there, and the whole entire fucking war would be over. Nope, fuck the writing in the earlier seasons where shit actually made logical sense. So eventually the Hound throws a rock and it hits the ice, but it doesn't break. This notifies the walkers that you can walk on ice. Although I think 2,000 people walking on ice is a lot more weight than one rock, but who cares? Let's not think about the physics, guys. Then what we have followed is literally the stupidest shit in Game of Thrones history. It's 7 dudes versus 2,000 whites, and they are taking them out as if it was 7 professional boxers versus 2,000 2-year-olds. As if it wasn't bad enough, there is an actual fucking scene where Tormund is getting dragged into the water by 2 whites while another one has a blade directly over his throat. Why the fuck don't you cut his throat? These things went from being scary, powerful beings that will whip your ass to completely pathetic, unbelievable weaklings over 1 fucking single minute. I'm completely stripped away from thinking these things are a threat. Just get like 20 good men together and go slaughter them all. These characters are in no fucking trouble at all. Why do I even fucking care? Dany comes flying in on her dragon to save the day, and instead of just setting the whole entire army of dead on fire, she decides to burn like 3 of them and then come flying down to try to save everybody on Drogon. Then Jon, being the fucking genius he is, runs away from the dragon and starts to fight whites. Jon, what the fuck are you doing, dude? He falls into the water like a fucking idiot, and the Night King grabs a spear and fucking throws it into Viserion's neck.
You shout in your sleep, perhaps the prize is just too steep. Is your conscience at rest? If one's put to the test, you awake with
That part was pretty fucking epic, I'm not gonna lie. Afterwards, Jon crawls out of the water because, let's be real, at this point, this character is unfucking killable. He gets to the land and he is freezing his balls off. While a shit ton of whites come running after him, Benjen shows up out of fucking nowhere on his horse. A horse that has been living beyond the wall for 7 years. Why the fuck did they not take horses on their journey to catch the white? You could say it's because north of the wall it's too cold for horses, but that makes no fucking sense, saying Benjen has been across the wall for 45 fucking years and his horse is still alive. Okay, I know that's a bit of an exaggeration. He hasn't been across the wall for fucking 45 years, but it's like, is his horse like ice immune? Is it like a fucking White Walker horse? Like, what makes his horse so special or can fucking live north of the wall for 7 years? But no other horse can go past the wall for like 5 seconds. And why is his horse so powerful that it can live beyond the wall for so fucking long, but it can't carry 2 people on its back? Like, there's just not enough time. He lets Jon take the horse and Jon asks for him to come with him. Then Benjen says there's no time and has Jon run away. Well, about 25 seconds of time passed before the whites caught up to you, so what the fuck are you even talking about there is no time? They couldn't come up with a better way to kill Benjen off than this? Hey, here's my horse. I'm kinda suicidal, so I'm gonna go get my flesh ripped off and my intestines eaten. See ya later. That's pretty much all I have to say about this episode. There's one more scene though, and it's probably the best. It's the scene where Sir Davos is undressing Jon Snow, and for a second I thought we were gonna see some hot gay sex, but I was incredibly disappointed. So I hope you can all see why I think this is the worst Game of Thrones episode of all time. I think the next one is pretty bad too. I might do that one next, though it is not nearly as bad as this episode. It does have its moments that make me ask myself, what the fuck were they thinking when they wrote this? Like the scene with the white in the box who decides to make no sound at all. You think it would be moving around making zombie sounds and shit, but nope, it's just in there chilling.